Thanks for joining us. A lot of people know a little bit about your story, but we definitely want to give them a little bit deeper dive about the transition that you've gone through and coming from where you were, and we'll talk about that, to being now a Salesforce professional. And I'll let you sort of introduce yourself and tell us where you're working and what you're up to. And then we can dive into what you were up to before you became a Salesforce professional.
All right. Well, my name is Hugh Richardson, and I am working from my home office in Southeast Texas. Right now, I am currently transferring data and software from my Acumen laptop to my Salesforce laptop because the company I just hired on with is being bought by the mothership.
That's amazing. So you are quite literally working directly for Salesforce now in their newly acquired consulting arm. So that is very interesting. So I guess how many weeks into the job are you now, and sort of how are things going?
I started on April 19th, so just a little over a month. At this point, I am slowly turned down the fire hose to a much more acceptable drinking level. The way we're structured is we go through our initial onboarding type stuff, and then we join in with the team and we just watch and learn and whatnot like that. This company is actually very, very good about not pressuring you to immediately dive in and start being productive right now type of deal. Yeah. They very much believe in long-term gains for short-term losses. So
yeah, that's excellent. And it's that dynamic is a little rare in the consulting world. They definitely, I mean, you have a ramp up period, but it's quick and they expect a lot out of you fast. It's almost like the consulting world seems to think that the more pressure they can apply to you, the faster you'll learn. And while that could be true, it's also the faster you'll burn out. So you're now, working on transitioning everything from one laptop to another because you're working for a consulting company that's been acquired by Salesforce. As you mentioned, you are now going to be employed by the mothership. So, you would think when you talk to someone who's having that conversation that you probably have a tech degree, maybe a computer science degree from a specific college. You probably grew up in a very tech-aware family that was maybe introducing you to all this stuff early on. And you and I know that that's not true. I didn't start that way, and I know you didn't start that way. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you transitioned from to where you are now?
Well, we'll start with this. I have a high school diploma. I graduated with high school with a 2.1 GPA because I despised high school. And then I went into the military. My mother thought microwaves were an amazing technology, and my father literally asked me the other day if somebody could get into his Keep Notes because they have a Google account as well. So that's the technical acumen I come from. I am completely self-taught. I originally started tinkering with tech when I was a kid. I had a Compaq Presario running Windows 3.1 that I inherited. And I took that thing apart and I put it back together and I tinkered and played and whatever. And I currently have 3 phones, 4 computers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's what it takes, is just the passion and drive and wanting to be in this space. Where I came from professionally, I'm a 40-year-old man who spent 16 years in the trucking industry after getting out of 5 years in the Marine Corps. So completely different fields. Oh yeah, I did a year's of prison guard as well, which no, I don't recommend that for anybody.
Yeah, that's amazing. So we're talking about, growing up not in a tech family, not in a family that's, constantly talking to you about how you've got to go to college in order to get these degrees, in order to have these skills, in order to get into these white collar jobs. It's very much, a lot of high school kids thinking, what can I do to just get this over with, whatever I have to do, and just, get out of here without getting in too much trouble. And then going into the military, coming out, getting into, truck driving, and then making this transition at this point in your career. So I can't imagine that there's too many individuals out there that had a similar route to you that are now considering getting into the tech space. So how on earth did you determine, how did this even enter your mind as, number one, something you're interested in, but number two, something that's even possible? Because a lot of people would say, if you come from the background you just described, there's just no way you're getting into the tech space. And I mean, a lot of people would say it is absolutely impossible. There's too big of a learning curve. There's too much to learn. You just can't make that transition. I mean, so how did you even figure out that Salesforce was something you might be interested in, and then realizing I can do whatever I want? I don't have to be a certain background or a certain understanding. I can learn whatever I want and do it if I feel like it.
So that plays into a couple of things. First off, I got introduced to Salesforce. I was introduced to Salesforce by a very close friend of mine. She is an evangelist, has been working with Salesforce, not as a Salesforce employee, but as a customer for about a decade. And this originally started just so I could have a conversation with her, intelligent conversation. She wanted to vent about work, and I had no idea what she was talking about when she got into, flows or objects or perm sets or any of that stuff. So she introduced me to VetForce after she came back from Dreamforce one year, and I tinkered with it, played with it a little bit, kind of liked it, didn't have the mental wherewithal to really dig into it at that point, so I set it on back burner. Once I got into it, I realized, okay, this is outstanding, and I'm going to cut myself off there because I will go on a diatribe about the creepiness of Salesforce. In regards to the concept of, big belly old boy trucker getting into this space, the way I got through boot camp in the Marine Corps was the knowledge that nobody thought I could hack it. That is the quickest way to get me to succeed at anything. Tell me I can't. Not a problem. Let's do this. That, and I don't like being comfortable. I don't like being mentally sedentary. Working out is the bane of my existence. Hence the reason I still got a big belly. But mental doldrum drives me absolutely nuts. So to me, that's what it takes. It's not a matter of, can this be physically possible? Yes, anything's physically possible. It's a matter of intelligence, it's a matter of drive, and it's a matter of just doing it.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, and it's I hope that your story is going to give other people that opportunity, even if they don't want to do Salesforce, but if they are really a tech career at all, because I think this is more than just Salesforce, right? It is. You hear some of the mainstream right now, like maybe it's Google Analytics or maybe Amazon Web Services, and there's a lot more topics that go into this conversation. So if there's something you're leaning towards, then by all means go for it. And I'm hoping this conversation with you can sort of give people that understanding that just because you heard a negative story from somebody who said the tech market is saturated, so you can't get in right now, or that it's too hard to learn it, or no one's hiring and you can't get interviews, like there is a way to get into that. And we've seen it, obviously, you and I have seen it from being inside the Salesforce ecosystem. We see people landing jobs and breaking into this ecosystem specifically consistently. So I've definitely enjoyed watching that. Now, there's more to this transition than just, you don't go from just, I can imagine, I don't have real world experience with this, but I don't imagine, mentally, and I guess maybe psychologically, there's a lot that goes into being on the road. I imagine being away from your family for extended periods of time, very different lifestyle. Instead of sleeping in a bed in your, 3-bedroom house, you're sleeping in the sleeper cab of a truck, which has got to be a little bit different from a sort of a scheduling and lifestyle perspective. So maybe walk us through what's that been like? What is it? What did you go from to what is it like today? And how is that transition, I guess, going for you? Because I think that would be about all I could handle in a 4-week period that you just described.
Well, actually, before I get into that, I want to step back for a second.
Sure.
Salesforce is my personal passion, and it's yours, and so on and so forth. But the concept of I don't have a white collar education, therefore I can't do this, is complete garbage. Look, Google Analytics, AWS, learning Red Hat Linux, learn any of this stuff. There are 1,000,001 certifications. Some are better than others. Some courses are better than others. I don't care. We all have Wi-Fi connectivity to some extent or another. We all have computers. Get on there and do it. Don't fall back on the idea of, well, I didn't grow up in this space. I didn't go to, Harvard or Yale or MIT. So therefore this is not good. No, technology is forever evolving, and it will forever be short on people that are quality at doing what they are doing. So this is a bit of a PSA, but don't let the concept of you don't have a fancy piece of paper from a highbrow university stop you from getting into space. Get in, get whatever certifications you need, do volunteer experience. Yes, it's going to be crazy for a while. You're going to be pulling in basically 2 full-time jobs. Suck it up, do it, and get done. You got it. Now, soapbox, step down. Onto the question about transition. Yeah, this is the transition for me was moderately insane compared to a lot of people. Most people, even if you're working in a blue collar industry, you're still at home every night and so on and so forth. I pulled basically a complete 180 on this. I went from never being home to being home 24/7. Before, as a truck driver, I would maybe get home 4 or 5 days out of every 2 months. There's a unwritten rule in trucking. You don't make money unless you keep the door closed. A lot of companies will tell you, oh yeah, we can get you home every week. We can get you home every 2 weeks. You're not going to make any money doing it that way. You just aren't. That's not the way the industry is structured. So I would stay out 2 months at a time, come home for 4 or 5 days and try to cram, 2 months of being a father, a grandfather, a husband, et cetera, into that 4 months. Drive my wife absolutely nuts because, one, she's got essentially a stranger in her bed every night. And two, she would want some attention from me, but at the same time, I'm also giving attention to everybody else. But at the same time, I'm also interfering with her ideas and concepts, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We're doing all of that in essentially super cruise mode at this point. We're still doing that whole, I've only been home for about a month and a half now. So we're still doing a lot of the getting to know you, integrating, reintegrating, things of that nature. Fun personal fact about me is that other than a year stint where I was a prison guard, I have never actually been home all the time for our marriage. In the Marine Corps, we got married right before I went on deployment. Then I got in trucking and it was go from there. So we've actually spent more time apart than together. So yeah, that is a massive personal transition for all of us.
Yeah, that's that I actually cannot even imagine, because I can work in my office and then go downstairs and interfere with what my wife had going on with our kid. So I can only imagine the transition of, like you said, like for your entire marriage, having to come down and sort of realizing a new norm, which is, I think, idealized as, normal or the way it's supposed to be or whatever else. But that doesn't make it exciting at every sort of step of the way. So yeah, there's a big transition there. And I think that it speaks even more to the whole premise of this. What seems to be emerging as the trend of this conversation is that you can make these transitions. And if you're coming from, because you've overcome an incredible amount of transition in the last, 4 to 6 weeks, where most people would be overwhelmed with the fact that they're starting a new job, or the fact that they're learning a new technology, or the fact that, they've got to pass an exam certification test or interview for jobs that they've never interviewed for before. And you're stacking that on top of, number one, I remember seeing pictures you posted of studying for certification exams at truck stops when they were having, whatever you want to call it, the snowpocalypse in Texas, and going through that process. So there is a lot there, and obviously you have a ton of tenacity to hop on a call with me this morning and talk through this experience. So yeah, and what I've noticed too is that, similar to what we've seen in the Ohana before, number one, you picked up on concepts much faster than a lot of other people do. And I think that had to do with focus and the fact that you just weren't letting it get away from you. You basically said, no, I'm going to figure this stuff out. I don't really care how long it takes or how much time it takes. And you did that. And now we've seen you once again take a U-turn and say, okay, I landed my job and I'm going through my company being acquired by Salesforce, and I'm transitioning into this new lifestyle. But now you're also going back and helping other people understand what it takes to make this transition, and helping other people not just understand the transitions, but also the technical stuff, like working with our team on flow sessions to help people better understand that. What is it that is causing you to feel the desire to turn right back around and help so many other people, find this transition for themselves as well?
A few things. First off, I'm a fixer. I see something that could use improvement, and I go for it. There are times it's gotten me in trouble, but that's kind of the way I'm wired. Secondly, I don't like being comfortable. It's weird. I could easily just say, okay, I've got enough on my plate. Let's do this. We're cool. We're just going to take care of all what we got going on now. But the fact of the matter is, I've got bandwidth, so let's use it. There was a study a few years ago that said if you continue learning throughout your lifetime, barring genetic disorders, your chances of falling victim to Alzheimer's are greatly reduced. If that's the case, I'm going to be perfectly lucid at the age of 112.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I can definitely relate to, maybe the only thing I can relate to you on is that always needing to be challenged, getting comfortable in uncomfortable situations, because it creates such exponential growth so quickly when you're just willing to be logical, but say yes when you need to say yes, and try new things, and not just try new things, but really understand them and try to dominate whatever it is that you're focusing in on. And obviously I've seen a lot of growth in my career from that, and the freelancing aspect of things, and building my own business. And then of course, working with the Talent Stacker team on, this whole new, sort of concept of helping people land jobs. And that's been really exciting and challenging every single day to overcome the hurdles of hundreds of people at one time. All right, Hugh. Well, thanks so much for your time and joining me here today and sort of talking through this transition. This is an eye opener for me. I know it's going to be an eye opener for a lot of individuals. And I know in 20 minutes, we are still only scratching the surface of everything that you've gone through. And I know a lot of people are going to relate to your story. They're definitely going to want to hear more about how this works and maybe how they can follow in your footsteps to an extent. Is there a best place that, people can reach you to I guess, reach out and talk more about, what you've done and how you can help?
LinkedIn. That is my preferred social network of choice at this point. And I will say this, it doesn't really matter what it is. Look, if you are in the middle of transition, you're uncertain about something, whatever the case may be, need help with a particular flow, need help with process builder, something technical, or just need to talk to somebody, reach out. I like helping. That's how I get my kicks. So it's not going to be an imposition. I may not be able to get back immediately, but I do want to hear from everybody.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Hugh, and I'm sure we will talk soon.
All right. Thanks, sir.